When I say the words Final Fantasy VII, everyone goes. But as soon as we add a remake to that title, that's when the pitchforks come out. FF7 was a game met with mixed reactions to say the least. I'm personally in the boat that loves it to bits. I mean, Tifa's in it for crying out loud. But I would be lying if I said it never got on my nerves. During my third playthrough of the game, I found myself getting pretty fed up with the glacial pacing. Now don't get me wrong, I love the time we spend in Sector 7 before you know what happens. But do we really need to spend like 70 years in the sewers? I mean, come on. Desperately wanting a change of pace, I remembered I still had Yuffie's DLC mission waiting for me on the title screen. So I booted that bad boy up right away and was greeted with a mini adventure I adored more than I could have imagined. Intermission, while short, shows Square Enix making so many amazing strides forward to improve the base game. A countless amount of issues I had with FF7 are brilliantly resolved for a far more refined experience altogether. In today's episode of the Tifa Lockhart Fan Club, I'll be going over why Intermission has given me such an optimistic look at the rest of the trilogy. But I can't do it alone. Such a daunting task requires much more brainpower than any mortal could produce. So joining me today is my good friend and YouTube sensation, Snugboy.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's such an honor. I will tell my children of this day and they will pass it down for generations. And I completely agree with you, GPS. Final Fantasy VII Remake is insanely detailed and really brings this reimagining of a classic to life in a virtual world that sometimes felt a little too real. But I think maybe the best thing it did was reinvent its characters. Whether it was the stoic and edgy Cloud, the kinda annoying airhead Aerith, or the copy and paste Mr. T Barrett, all the characters in Remake are, well, remade. The core parts of what made them great in the original is still here, but they've been expanded and fleshed out to such a degree that they are all so interesting and so likable. And that is maybe Intermission's biggest accomplishment. They take a character from the original who is pretty one-note and shallow, and transform her into a stylish and interesting person here. In the original game, she stole my materia and then I just used her to heal when Aerith died. Cool, love your work. But in Intermission, Yuffie has a rich backstory. She has actual character traits, she's got charisma, and she has a surprising amount of depth.
This might be a bit of a hot take, but I was never really a fan of Yuffie in the original FF7. I don't know, man, I just found it a bit hard to like the girl who would steal my materia every other second of the day. But after playing these 2 extra chapters, hell yeah, I like Yuffie. I suppose the reason for her charm is comparable to why I love Ellie from the first Last of Us. Their silly and naive nature instantly makes the tone of the game bright and enjoyable. Yuffie's vibrant personality was infinitely humorous and entertaining, making even the dullest of situations worth sitting through. Plus,
Yuffie looked absolutely incredible in Intermission. Like, it's just astounding how well her kinda awkward original design translates to the modern day. She looks perfect. Except button your shorts up, Yuffie, what the fuck? I'm not even complaining out of an age thing, like it just looks so dumb. Apparently it was a Japanese fashion trend in the 90s, but honestly it's gotta take a note out of the Sony Discman's book and stay in the 90s because it's so dumb. And they gave it jiggle physics? Why?
The effort that went into bringing Yuffie to life is astounding. I'll have you guys know that I love Cloud, but it was honestly so refreshing for the protagonist to be so upbeat and cheerful with every animation. Like, this is how Cloud sits down, and this is how Yuffie sits down. The little things like that and seeing her spread her arms out as she walked just made me smile. The game knocks the visual aspects out of the park, but let's not forget the audio side.
The music, oh my goodness, the music. I really liked all the tracks in the base game, but if I'm to be perfectly honest, a lot of them felt a bit over-orchestrated, and a lot of the themes were kinda drowned out. But here they do such a great job at balancing, updating the original PS1 songs whilst also having them fit this new world and tone. I mean, Yuffie's theme from the original is this kinda chill and laid back track. But here it's this transformed and energetic banger that kicks you in the face with its new take on this character.
That same adrenaline is present in countless tracks of the OST, and y'all know damn well Square knows how to whip up some banger battle themes. It's always so dope to see how they modernize every song in each installment, and I'll never get sick of new Airbuster renditions. Bro, catch me blasting this at the gym! Then just when you think you got Intermission figured out, they throw this curveball at you that are the jazz tracks. It was such a pleasant surprise to out of nowhere hear this insane drum solo while traversing.
not quite my tempo.
One thing that the game as a whole does incredibly well that no one really points out is how the tracks are dynamic. Like you're walking through the world hearing this, and then you get to a battle and it transforms into... I think at this point the FF7 Remake team over at Square Enix have gotten incredibly good at remaking these old tracks to perfectly complement the world and gameplay. And speaking of, we're talking about the world.
Psst. We're talking about the gameplay next.
And speaking of, we're talking about the gameplay.
Let's get right into the meat and potatoes of Intermission's gameplay, the combat. Battles in this game are absolutely phenomenal. The base game already did an incredible job of merging turn-based and action elements while still making it enjoyable. So when I say Intermission plays even better than that, you know it must be at least alright. Yuffie is easily the most fun character to play as. There's no competition, it's not even close.
One really frustrating thing about the base game was that you'd go into a fight, get your ass kicked by an enemy, assess it, and then realize that none of your characters have the correct elemental materia equipped. Oh, for fuck's sake. But the genius thing about Yuffie's playstyle is that she has an ability that can change what her core materia is on the fly. This not only gets rid of that frustrating little bump, but also keeps the combat fast and fluid. And it's so good that I'm really anxious they'll take it away for Rebirth. Please don't take it away!
Yuffie's magic is seriously such a versatile and fun tool. It provides this contrast between her melee so the fights don't get stale. And when her melee is as quick and snappy as it is, you're in for a good time no matter what. Thanks to her throwing star, the sky's the limit when it comes to combos. Which is saying a lot because the base game's aerial combat was straight up atrocious. It's this herky-jerky BS that you better pray doesn't give you motion sickness. Intermission fixes that issue so masterfully, as continuously throwing and retrieving your star allows you to stay off the ground for as long as you'd like. Getting enemies into pressure states and taking advantage of them has never been more seamless.
And then you got the new synergy mode, baby! With the press of a button, you can tell your AI buddy to copy exactly what you do, and when you've got someone pressured or cornered, it is just so fun to go, "Don't let him down.
You're mine, punk."
So we all know that the combat is essentially flawless, other than still not having a jump button, but how does the rest of the game play? Traversal follows the same structure as its predecessor, linear areas with occasional roadblocks and collectibles. By the way, the ninja star is a godsend when it comes to those guys, because you can just stand there and press triangle instead of trudging all the way over to a box with your buster sword. It's used in a couple different sections too, never super complex or extensive, but the potential is there for the sequels.
And another thing they do to improve upon the base game, God, there's actually a lot of things out there, is by adding these new modes of traversal. You've got these walls you can run across or hanging things you can swing off, you know, because you're a ninja. But it really helps the linear world exploration feel a little bit more interesting than it was with the countless hallways and ladders found in the base game.
Intermission also offers its fair share of side content as well. The first is this Happy Turtle Flyer quest, which involves exploring Sector 7 looking for said advertisements. It's nice to have something to do, but if I'm being honest with you guys, running around Sector 7 has gone so tedious for me. I've done this stupid cat side quest from the base game like 3 times now because I refuse to have a playthrough where I don't get that adorable Tifa scene. So when you remove that incentive, you best believe I'm not sticking around. That is, unless they brought back a specific minigame from the OG 1997 game.
Fort Condor! This was easily the worst minigame of the original, and yet here it's so fun and charming, and I think it's very cute.
Overall, the way Intermission plays is the reason why this video exists in the first place. The actually functional air combat, plus the synergy dynamic, plus feeling like Spider-Man, plus Fort Condor made for one hell of a gameplay loop. But let's remember that this is a Square Enix game, so there's no doubt that we're gonna dive headfirst into whatever roller coaster number is cooked up for us.
The story of Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate Intermission DLC chapter takes place about a third of the way through the original game's plot. While Cloud is busy flirting with Aerith in the church and his friends just assumed he is alive, despite falling 50,000 feet? No, seriously, what? We are introduced to a certain mischievous ninja from the faraway land of Wutai.
We meet Yuffie right at the gate, and are instantly introduced to her stubborn, clumsy, yet ambitious disposition. Her character does fall into that trope of being a kid who wants nothing more than to prove themselves to the adults, but it's done in a lovable way that isn't overbearing.
I thought it was really fresh and clever of the developers to have you walk through Sector 7, an area you know well, as a new character who hates the place. It gives us that rare outside look and perspective of this world that we never really got with Cloud and the gang's Eye of the Tornado position in the story. But walking around incognito, seeing the main characters, and even being bullied by Jessie as a new character makes this section feel fresh again. And part of the way they help make it feel fresh is through Yuffie and her outlook on Midgar as a person from Wutai. Throughout the game, they really flesh out and expand on the history and culture of this newly introduced country, which is both very interesting and very cool, because it really makes Yuffie feel unique to the rest of the game. And also she eats these beans that Midgarians can't, and that's funny.
Hey, hold up! Try it. You'll love it. Foreigners and their weak jaws.
But just after playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and having every country offer a different dialect or accent, I found it really disappointing that they didn't give Yuffie and other Wutaians around the world a different accent.
I like your attitude.
Yuffie's mission is to sneak into Shinra headquarters and steal their secret materia, cause that's like her thing, you know? So she needs to meet up with Avalanche to get the ball rolling. Yuffie becomes acquainted with a few new characters from a different Avalanche cell, but let's be honest, they really aren't that important. The real deal is our boy Sonon, who is as Final Fantasy as a Final Fantasy character gets. His jawline is so sharp, my guy doesn't even need a weapon. Sonon is Yuffie's partner on the mission, and contrary to what you might think, Yuffie is in charge. Sonon is way too respectful for his own good, even referring to Yuffie as boss, letting her take the reins.
Sonon and Yuffie fall very quickly into a brother-sister archetype, which they almost immediately then turn on its head by having Yuffie just outright reject it. I ain't your sister, get out of here. It's almost comical how Sonon gives cliche recounts of his sister dying in a war between Wutai and Midgar, and Yuffie just goes, no. But these war flashbacks again flesh out the story between Wutai and Midgar and give good motives for why Sonon and Yuffie want to infiltrate Shinra HQ in the first place. That's what you're doing in this game. Sorry, I don't think we mentioned it. In Intermission, you're invading
Upon arriving at Shinra HQ, we see their reliance on each other exemplified extremely well in this scene with Scarlet. She's kind of the antagonist of this minisode. When Scarlet insults their people, Yuffie is seething, but Sonon keeps her in check. Then Sonon realizes that it was one of Scarlet's machines that killed his sister, and Yuffie returns the favor. Throughout their escapade, we see them grow closer, and every conversation becomes more wholesome than the last, all tragically culminating in a screeching halt.
Uh-oh, did you think Shinra wouldn't be full of fuckery? Oh, contraire, my friend. Turns out the secret materia they're working on isn't even finished, and what they discover instead is something way more terrifying. A human experiment of a creature called Nero, from Dirge of Cerberus, the crappy PS2 Vincent game. Really? Are we really introducing lore from the Dirge game? Seriously? So anyways, Nero kills Sonon abruptly and you get your revenge. And although the DLC is quite short, introducing this character really helps give the short few-hour campaign a meaty emotional punch.
Devastated and ripped to shreds, Yuffie sprints out of the Shinra HQ, only to be just in time to witness the plate falling. The shock on her face, music, cinematography, spectacle, and Suzy Young's performance all get you to fully feel for Yuffie in her darkest hour. We then get one final scene with her and her chocobo, presumably on their way to some forest for Cloud and the gang to find in Rebirth. Speaking of Cloud and the gang,
They're back! Ah! This entire project, despite its controversies, has consistently and excellently nailed the portrayals of these characters. It should be boring seeing them talk about nothing and interact in a very slice of life fashion. But I think because they nailed the characterization and writing of them so well, it's just fun to be a fly on the wall and see them chat.
it's kinda unreal how long these scenes are. It's like 5 whole minutes of brand new stuff to hold us over until Rebirth. That's one generous teaser. Zack even shows up, and I'm not even gonna pretend I know what the hell's going on with him, but I'm here for it. And with that, Intermission is a wrap. It tells a decently impactful story in such a short amount of time. Although, I'd be lying if I said I didn't wish it was a little longer. I've seen sources say it has a 6 to 8 hour campaign, but I beat it in 4 and Snug beat it in 3. So, I don't know man, I guess we're just built different. Jokes aside, Intermission is a genuinely terrific expansion of an already great base game. It did nothing but raise my hopes for the future of the trilogy. I cannot wait to play Rebirth in Part 3. Also, a huge thanks to Snug for jumping on this thing with me. We conveniently played through this game at the same time, and I'm glad we could come together to make something on it. He's a great guy making great videos, so be sure to check him out. Link to his channel in the description.
You say convenient, but it was planned. I waited day and night for you to begin playing so I could pretend we did it at the same time, and maybe you'd let me onto your channel, because GPS, I am your biggest fan, and all I've ever wanted to do was just to meet you, and please,
I say this every time, but thanks for watching even a fraction of this video. Your time and attention means more than I can say. I'm so grateful for you guys, and as always, I hope you have a fantastic day.
Bye.